Uh, Morning, and this is for the part-timers. We're going to go through the brief and for formative one. And yeah, if there's any questions, you can always just contact me on the WhatsApp group or when we have our live sessions in class this week. So second week right now, yeah, it's supposed to be a live session. So next week is pre-recorded lessons because it's my uh, third years, and then again we'll meet the week after next. All right, let's just get into the brief. All right, it must let's just make sure that you understand that it needs to be uploaded to Call Campus between the weekdays of the 10th to 16th of April. And that is something that, again, I say to all my students, to not wait for the 16th of April. I'm sure maybe you've encountered this last year, but to leave it for the very last day is going to be troublesome for you. A lot of students uploading, things start to lag, and a lot of deadlines are missed. And again, there's no tolerance for any excuses when it comes to that. They'll just be losing marks or get nothing at all. Okay. All right. So it's obviously it's largely I say obviously it's largely theory. It's based on the lessons that I've already covered. Um, and also the lessons that are going to be coming up in the next 2 weeks. So question one is out of 40 marks, please also remember that I advise you to, when you are doing any question, right? Okay, to put your points, put your facts in point form, your answers in point form, so that you can manage like you're actually making a unique fact per point and not repeating yourself, which is what happens when you are writing in a paragraph, right? Okay, so with that just disclaimer in mind, let's go to the first question. So, what does RAMS stand for? Okay, identify how the BRC attempts to avoid demographic bias. Okay, so in other words, what is their process to make sure that the demographics are representative of like South Africa as like as a whole, and in terms of the sample set that they do use, that we get enough of all of our races and our cultures, and especially also again in terms of the SEMs that are there, and again also just in terms of all the lifestyle decisions that are made in terms of like the devices and so on and so forth, and how much time is spent in that and so on and so forth, right? Explain how a relatively small sample is able to represent a whole population. Okay, so as I said there, I'm not going to give you the answers to that, but it is again in the lessons and in your textbook, right? And please paraphrase, but please you have to paraphrase, and you have to use the Harvard approach to referencing so that you can gain these marks. Okay, name 5 key data points revealed by a Ram's diary. Okay, and again, once again, 1 mark per per point that you make that is valid and that is correct. Okay, so you are tasked with performing the research that will be used to prepare for a brand new breakfast show on BMH Radio. So let's see some of the questions there, and let's kind of like dissect some of them. So create a qualitative survey. Again, that's in lesson 3 and 4. Okay, qualitative survey comprising 4 powerful qualitative questions. The survey is intended to reveal the radio listening preferences for the respondents or of the respondents. So, what happens is that if you're asking the wrong questions, you'll lose the marks. Again, for it to be qualitative, it's got to be qualitative is and not versus quantity. Quantity, obviously, quantitative is quantity, so obviously the numbers, and qualitative is more in depth and asking open-ended questions to know like where your listener is at. It has to be again, once again, lifestyle centered towards the BMH student, and you have to land those answers to get those marks, right? Uh, land the answers to get the marks, right? So now conduct a survey with 10 of the classmates. So you need to print out, okay, so 10 of those those surveys, okay, and which you will then obviously include in the PDF that you load to Call Campus, conduct a survey with 10 of your classmates at BMH and present the survey data, right? So you will again upload those particular surveys as part of getting those 6 marks. Okay, using 5FIM's methodology explained on page 439 on Next Level Radio. So your textbook, this one here, got this one over here, and looking at the way that they decide to, create a composite listener for a breakfast show, or create a composite listener, finished, right? You need to create a composite listener for a breakfast show for the Boston Media House students, okay? So once again, the composite listener, very important for us to understand like the profile of who it is that we are talking about. It's got to be detailed. So the thing is, again, you can't just break up that composite listener that you decide on. Maybe her, like this fictional person is called Naledi. She is maybe 19 years old. She's studying full time radio, whatever it is, after full time, obviously media practices or whatever it is. She's a media student at BMH. And then you can't just give me like the breakdowns of like just like here's lifestyle, here's studies, here's relationships, here's social media. Like you got to break those things, those particular sects up into really getting those marks, but to show that you understand the facets quite deeply of how this person lives their life. Okay, to successfully deliver a winning breakfast show, it's important to understand our competitors using the available stats on the BRC website. So I have uploaded like stats that are available in terms of just the numbers, but they are, I mean, there's a couple more PDFs that are uploaded. I would recommend that you go through them, obviously, but because that's covered in the classes as well. Um, but I would go to the VRC website to really pull as much data as I can to understand again lifestyles, behaviors, patterns, stats, that type of thing. Using the available stats on the VRC website, detail the radio stations that your composite listener might be listening to right now, considering age, location, and other demographic info. So what I would do is, so for you to get those marks, once again, you've got to land the correct competitors, whether they are community stations, and the commercial stations that you do choose. To get those, I would go to at least 5, okay, and then go and state like the format of it, like who their target audience is, where they are situated, right? And then again, a little bit of the demographic info in terms of like the SEMs and stuff like that to get those marks. All right, so let's have a look at question 2. Prime Media, one of SA's largest privately owned media houses, wants to bring Beyonce's Renaissance tour to Johannesburg as part of the deal. Like they want to show they want the show to be broadcasting live on KFM and 947. So, in order for this project to be approved, you must provide justification to the company's board. Explain to the board why the average 947 KFM listener will enjoy the concert outside broadcast experience as opposed to regular programming, right? So, in that, you really need to understand why it is that we do outside broadcasts and why we do brand with events to be able to answer that question correctly. Again, 4 marks, 4 points, you'll get that there. So you'll also need to create a technical rider for the OB to the board. Explain what equipment you would need to broadcast this OB live. So whether it's a mobile studio, there is like that's cool, but the thing is that you have to have connectivity, and you've got to have I would say contingency plans also laid up in there. Basic, obviously, equipment within the OB truck, whether it has to be set up live, like at within the concert halls. Um, you have to tell me why it is that you need that particular equipment approved. Knowing that you are studying radio, one of your family members complained to you personally, saying that they've heard Lizzo's "To Be Loved" 8 times in the past 3 days on their local AC station. So his AC station is like Jacaranda, adult contemporary, right? So they suggested that the presenter has a limited music taste. The family member wants to know, does the individual presenter choose their own music? Answer yes or no, explaining the process and identify the key technologies involved in the process. I can't give you the answer, or I can't direct you in the right way, because that is something that you have to pull from the lessons that obviously we have and we are still to have when you look at music compiling, etc. Imagine you are the station manager at BMH Online Radio and there is a refurbishment of the broadcast studios taking place. So there has also been a budget approved for a new play out system. Which one of the following options which is the best suited for BMH Radio, and provide 3 reasons why? If you have visited BMH Radio, you will know the answer to this question because we already use that playback system, and you would explain why, we use that system. Should you decide to go with one of the others, you have to really obviously justify the answer with why, like budget, again, budget, there's mention of budget, like why the budget is, like fits obviously is, enough or whatever it is, or this is worth the budget, or worth the money cost, or whatever it may be. But you can't just say, oh well, we can afford it. That doesn't make any. That's just one of the maybe reasons. It's cost effective or whatever it is. Certain like certain systems over there, playback systems, um, are locally developed, right? And others are not, with licensing that is a little bit more expensive. There's a little bit more red tape involved with them, uh, just as a starting point. Cool. Question 3, the last question. You've been appointed as the producer of BMH Radio's new breakfast show. So you're in the process of developing a new content schedule, and you are relying on the GIFts system developed by Tracy Johnson, which, if I can remember correctly, like that was introduced in your first year. What does GIFts stand for? So it's part of Next Level. It's Next Level Radio. Okay, provide an example of one content feature that would fit into each gifts category. So again, you got to like first explain the definition, then break it down. And please look at the rubric all the time. So the way that the marks are allocated so that you can provide enough information, enough factual points, enough obviously correct answers once again, so that you can get those marks. Otherwise, there's a lot of things that you got to do in this assignment, but at the same time, a lot of places that you can lose the marks. And remember, this is tertiary education. Like we need meat on the assignments that you deliver, especially now you're grown up in terms of second year, and third year gets more obviously much more intense. But you've got to provide something more than just like a basic answer. Okay. All right. Listen to the hour to 1 hour of a South African commercial radio breakfast show. Like if you choose the wrong station, you lose the marks. Okay. So by now you should know exactly what commercial radio is, and draw a clock of the hour that you did listen to. Include all elements, every single element that you heard of. With the breakfast show, every element is included, and there's a lot of activity that happens there. Name the station and the show, identify all the characters on the show, give the date and hour that you listen to of the show. Again, point form. Just give me a second here to get those marks. Okay. So pick a piece of content that you heard on the show and answer the following questions, right? So you see that I did not page down further than that. Okay, good. Describe the content piece in detail. Once again, please put in point form and like, I mean, uh, like content is a content piece is anything that is not music. Do you understand? Okay. Do not go for an admin link, please. That means nothing. Like you can either do a call out or an interview, or you can do like a competition or whatever it is, and describe which gifts it would belong to and why. Okay. Did this content piece fit the station's format? Why or why not? Again, like you'll get an answer for saying like the correct one or why not, right? As long as your justification makes sense. Was the content piece effectively teased? Explain why not? Okay. And did the performance deliver on the promise? Explain why or why not. So once again, look at obviously the concept of gifts, look at the concepts that we have covered in first year. And again, now obviously in second year, we're going a little bit more detail and make sure that you understand what like the whole process is in the cycle of, I would say the life cycle of content delivery and a link is made up of to make sure that you justify the correct answer. Okay. All right. Then we got your technical marks. Please, I mean, like it's, there's genuinely no excuses for spelling something incorrectly because of the fact that you work on a word processor. Like the underline is in red. You could grammatically be using the wrong word. So make sure that punctuation and grammatics are also checked. If you need to load like an add-on or whatever it is to help you, then move it over to Google Docs and add those add-ins there. But genuinely at this point, like there's no tolerance again for like spelling errors, and so on and so forth, right? So it's either a 0 or a 3 for me. Like if you just if you have like two spelling errors, or whatever, then I'm just then marks not allocated. Plagiarism, please. The Harvard method must be used correctly, and that is your assignment, please. That's what I'm saying to you. There's a rubric over here. Note, obviously where the marks go. As you see, it's like it's laid out there correctly, and that is the formative one. Work ahead, work now, start now. There's a lot of things you can answer now, and ease the pressure of the workload that you have for submission week. It's not only radio. I know you guys do a thing about four subjects, things four about four subjects or six subjects. Um, and so you will have a lot of work. Obviously, the drill. And obviously, good luck and work hard. I'm going to stop that recording right there.